Welcome back to another episode of Consumer Protection and You with Ryan Lippe. Today, Ryan's going to be looking at the different age groups and the different scams that are involved. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Consumer Protection and You with Ryan Lippe. Ryan Lippe is a consumer educator with the State of Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost office, and he presents a variety of different issues regarding scams, whether you are real young at heart or very old. And today, Ryan's going to be looking at some of the different scams that perhaps we don't realize are available when it comes to the younger people involved.
Afternoon. Nice to talk with you.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Ryan. The State of Ohio Attorney General's office looks at a variety of different scams. We're starting to find out that certain age groups are also susceptible to certain kinds of scams. Is that correct?
Yeah, in fact, our office traditionally goes to lots of senior centers, lots of assisted living communities, lots of meetings with folks that are older, and which is great because they are vulnerable to many different scams that we see either over the phone, these days over the internet, and through social media, things like that. But you got to pay attention to every age group. And if, according to the Federal Trade Commission some time ago, adults 18 to 59 are more likely to report losing money to scams. And the median loss was about $500. Now, having said that, those older adults that are 70 and older were less likely to report fraud, but they tended to incur larger financial losses. So what we're seeing, the dynamic I'm trying to illustrate is when you get older, you are maybe less likely to get scammed, but more likely to be scammed out of more money. Because what are very costly scams include romance scams, cryptocurrency scams, things that maybe an older person has a whole life savings that they part with under the guise of a scam operation or, some type of investment or romance partnership or something like that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about those that are under 20, those that are on social media very actively, those that game online, and make sure that they know about the different types of scams that we see that are particularly vulnerable to them as somebody in their teens, 20s, 30s, things like that. And, one definite scam we see is online shopping fraud. A fake website selling items for an unusually low price. You might get an email with a link to the fake site, see something on social media, see an online advertisement that leads to the fake site. What we're looking at is you pay for something you never receive, or you pay for something that the quality is so shabby you might as well have not even engaged in the transaction. We see a lot of online shopping fraud, and I think the more that younger adults are exposed to all these different social media channels and platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, all those different social medias, the more likely they are to fall for a social media generated scam, I would say. So it's really important that when we're on social media, especially if you're younger and when you're online gaming, you be very close to the vest with any personal information. Don't give it out. Be frugal. If you think something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I've seen cases where whole stores have been faked online selling low-cost items, and you can bet that everybody paid money for those items and never received anything in return, or received a much lesser quality item that they had planned for. So online shopping fraud, I think you put a star next to that. That's something that younger adults may be more susceptible to. Another type of scam is the fake cryptocurrency investment schemes. The cryptocurrency in and of itself is not a scam. I mean, there really is cryptocurrency. It really does have some type of value in the marketplace, even though it's unregulated by state and federal forces. But the fact is that if an investment scam promises large returns with little investment, or if they say that a celebrity or an influencer, we always talk about influencers on social media, if they say they can multiply any amount of cryptocurrency and give you 20 or 30 or 40% back, or double your money or something like that, it's probably a scam. And if you send the cryptocurrency by clicking a link or clicking a QR code, the money goes directly to the scammers and won't be invested on your behalf. So we see that with older adults as well, but younger adults are, I think, I would say generally more attuned to cryptocurrency markets and maybe a little more susceptible to that type of scam, whether it involves Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency you've never even heard of that may be brand new. You need to do your research, and you need to be very aware of those of investment scams being prevalent amongst the cryptocurrency community. Another scam we see a lot of are job scams. If you receive an email or if you do an interview with a company and you see something that excites you about the job, but it seems like it has a very extravagant salary, or more than you think the position would normally pay, it's possible that you are being exposed to a job scam. And when we apply for jobs, we give our employer personal information. And so unless you've done a lot of research, never give a potential employer things like your social security number or any personal identifying information till you actually realize that it's legitimate and not a scam. Because we do see a lot of job scams and job opportunity scams out there, especially online. You may go into a chat room. We may get an interview, and then they tell you it's some wonderful pie in the sky job that pays tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And if it's not that real company, you may be giving your personal information out to someone who's likely going to use it for identity theft or sell it for money on the marketplace, on the dark web. So a lot of these job scams involve fake checks. So that's a big red flag. If somebody's offering to give you a check telling you that it's to pay for equipment for your new job, or it's to pay for any type of software or a computer for your new job, if they on the outset give you a check, it's probably a scam. And what they try to do is get you to send your real money to the supposed vendor that's going to give you the software or give you the laptop. But then by the time you have given your real money to the fake vendor, the check comes back as counterfeit. And so you're left holding the bag, so to speak, because you've given your real money to a supposed third party and banked on the fact that the check would be good when it really turned out to be fake. So it's sort of a more involved scam, but fake checks are used all over Ohio and all over the country to scam people out of their real money. Another thing that can be done, it could be a work from home scam. It could be a sweepstakes where they say that check is supposed to pay for the taxes of a prize, and you need to immediately send your money to someone that you've never heard of. And then the check comes back counterfeit 3 or 5 or 7 days later from the bank, and you are sitting there thinking, well, I just fell for a scam. So the online shopping fraud, the cryptocurrency investment scams, and the job scams are the ones that we see that may be a little more aligned with scamming younger adults, people in their teens, 20s, 30s. But let's face it, we are all vulnerable to every type of scam. Now, if somebody calls me up and says they're Medicare, I'm not 65 yet. So I'm not exposed to the Medicare scams as often, and I certainly wouldn't fall for one. But all these other types of scams, I very well could fall for a scam, and it's really not blaming the victim, because these scammers are very professional. And a lot of organizations right now, especially AARP, are doing some work reframing the discussion about scams and about scam victims, because the fact is these are very sophisticated criminals that are committing offenses against us at all age groups, and anybody can fall for these scams. Even somebody with a law degree, somebody with a doctorate, people of all intelligence levels and of all intellects are vulnerable to scams. And it's time that we recognize that and build that into the discussion. Rather than blaming the victim, we need to blame the criminal. We need to prosecute the criminal, and we need to educate the public about how the tactics they use, so you can base your interactions on whether you think they are using tactics that only a scammer would use.
I've found that if you pay things to new individuals using your credit card, there's a little bit more safety involved.
I would say you're definitely going to be given the most consumer protections with a credit card versus a debit card or a check or cash. We still see scams using all those types of mechanisms, but if you use a credit card, at least you can go to the credit card company. If all else fails and it turns out to be a phony company, you can go to the credit card company, and you're usually liable for no more than $50 of an unauthorized transaction. So, even if they claim that you're buying something for $10 and they ring up $30,000 on your credit card, you're not liable for the vast majority of that money if it was truly an unauthorized purchase that was done without your consent. So it's really important to use a credit card versus other payment measures when you are doing anything online or anything you're not sure about. Do your research first, and you might want to be your own best skeptic and not do the transaction. But if you want to go forward, at least use that credit card, because it gives you consumer protections and the law is working in your favor if something happens and it's used without your permission.
Speaking of credit cards, there's one group of people that usually do not have credit cards. Those are individuals, we are required when we have babies to register them with the Social Security to get a Social Security number. But most of us don't really look at or check the credit of the individual until they're maybe 15, 16, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that just because you are an adult, a young adult, or a juvenile, or a child, doesn't mean you aren't susceptible to child identity theft. In fact, that's a whole thing right now, not just identity theft, but child identity theft, because if you are under 16, you probably shouldn't have a credit report at all. If you go and request your credit report at the official site to do so, which is www.annualcreditreport.com, if you go to that site and answer some questions, they'll probably get some feedback saying that you have no credit report if you're 6 years old, if you're 10 years old, if you're 15 years old, and your parents are doing it on your behalf, most likely. But the fact is, there are identity thieves out there that will steal Social Security numbers from juveniles, from children, from infants, and use them to try to get credit in their name. And the fact is that that social is so powerful that sometimes the scammer ends up getting a credit card or a loan or a mortgage or some type of credit established in with that child's personal identifying information like their social security number. Now, it's true that that might be the first time that social security number has been used to attempt to get credit, but apparently there are creditors out there that will give credit if it's a clean social security number. If you're 8 years old, you've never had any bankruptcies, never paid any late payment fees, never been late on a mortgage or a housing payment. No, so there are no bad marks on the credit. So children are particularly vulnerable to identity theft for that reason alone. And in another category, I guess, is foster care children are specifically more vulnerable because their information is usually in more databases. And when there's a data compromise or there's a leak or somebody's doing an inside job with personal identifying information that they shouldn't have access to, sometimes it's a foster kid. And so they may not find out, again, as you mentioned, Patrick, they may not find out until they're 16 or 18 and they go to apply for credit and they say you're denied because you have all these late payments or credit cards you've never paid up because it's been taken out in your name without your permission. So learn about child identity theft and also learn about the ability for you as a parent or the guardian of someone under 16, or if it's a disabled individual any age, if you're their guardian, their legal guardian, learn about protecting their identity through what we call a child credit freeze. Every parent has the right to do that if they have a child that's under 16. And it lasts until the 16th birthday. And what they do is the credit reporting bureaus will open up a report in that child's name and immediately freeze it to prevent any creditor from going in there and looking at the report or adding to it as a new creditor. So it's a really important facet of our system. Everybody out there can get a credit freeze. It's not something that you should take lightly. I mean, I would definitely learn about a credit freeze before putting one into effect. But the fact is, a lot of people that are vulnerable to identity theft would do a lot of good for themselves to get or at least explore a credit freeze. And that includes juveniles, where parents are acting on behalf of that juvenile or an older guardian of any age. So child identity theft is real. We've had 15-year-olds that have gone to the Ohio Attorney General's office, our office, to get help from our consumer advocates to piece their identity back together again. And what we can do at the Attorney General's office through our identity theft unit is to rectify the effects of identity theft by helping to restore someone's good name by contacting creditors, bill collectors, credit reporting agencies, those that are responsible for maintaining your credit report and for any blemishes on your credit report. We can help straighten things out using our resources at the Ohio Attorney General's office. People can go to our help center. Our toll-free number is 800-282-0515, or simply go to ohioattorneygeneral.gov for more information on getting help if you're an identity theft victim, or for more tips on protecting your identity. We have an identity theft flyer that gives you some of the fundamental tips of how to check your credit report, how to try to stay away from identity theft, and what to do, what action you need to take if you happen to be a victim of any age.
I would think that individuals, especially 15-year-olds that have had a real bad credit scams on their credit report, that they just get a new Social Security number.
That's usually not the case. Social Security numbers are usually given one time to individuals, and typically you're stuck with that Social Security number for your lifespan. It's rare that you hear about a Social Security number being changed or reissued or something like that. Now, it's not to say that there's nothing they can do to put alerts on your credit report and things like that, but I would say it's usually the case that your Social Security number is not going to change, even if you've had a bad case or bad cases of identity theft on your Social Security number. You know, I'm sitting here in, well, it's January, but you may be watching this in March or April. If you're watching this and it's tax season, you can actually request from the Internal Revenue Service like a code in order to help you prevent identity theft of your tax return refund. So look into that. It's a particular identity theft protection that the IRS offers individuals that think they are susceptible to identity theft. So they issue something to you each year, and you recite that code when you file your tax return, so they know that it's really you filing it. Really, really good program out there that they've opened up to all taxpayers that want it. Used to be you'd hear about identity theft victims using that system, but now everybody that is susceptible to identity theft can request that identity theft, like taxpayer ID number, to be able to make sure that only they can file a legitimate tax return and that only they are going to be getting the refund that they deserve every year.
In regards to those under 15 years old, oftentimes grandparents will set up savings accounts or use savings bonds for the individual. I know that my wife and I would do that with our grandchildren. It required the Social Security number and it required the parents' names. So either or could cash them in. Protecting those Social Security numbers, I think, is high priority.
Absolutely, absolutely. We always talk about actionable steps that parents as well as children can take to protect themselves from identity theft. Making sure you don't bring your Social Security card all around town with you or when you travel. Rarely do you ever need your Social Security card, but if someone gets a hold of it, that is sort of the really powerful weapon that identity thieves have to do you harm is your Social Security number. So don't take it around with you. Don't tell it until you absolutely need to tell somebody. Make sure you know who you're talking to and that you have done your research to know they are from the company or the organization or the agency they say they're from. Because if you go around and give your Social Security number out to complete strangers, like identity thieves or people supposedly acting in your best interests, but in reality they turn out to be negative influences and people that don't have your best wishes at heart. You are susceptible to that type of victimization. So it's really important that you don't carry your Social Security card around with you, that you only carry in your wallet or purse the things that you need for that particular trip into town or that particular vacation day. Don't carry 3 or 4 credit cards if you're only going to use one. Don't fill out job applications and take lightly when they ask for your Social Security number. Usually they wouldn't do that until the final phases of the job application process. So if they're asking for it right away, or they are really gung-ho about getting that Social Security number before you even been offered the job, it may be a sign to do more research, take a deep breath, and don't give that to them until you've really, really cleared up whether they are legitimately representing that company or not.
They would need the Social Security number for the payroll taxes. And
Absolutely, absolutely. But we just see less than credible people acting as employers when they're really not. They simply are collecting job applications to create profiles of people that they can then turn and sell it or use it themselves to commit identity theft. Again, that's where you need to look at the job listing, maybe verify through the company's own website that that job has been posted, and look on search engines for any signs that a company may be impersonated by a scammer. Maybe look for the company name and words like job scam or complaint scam can help you do your research. And calling that legitimate company to verify it using your phone number that you found through that company's official website is really a good practice as well. So get only the details for the real company that you found through their real website to uncover whether that company is the real deal or whether it's being impersonated by somebody that wants to just steal your personal information.
so Ryan, suppose I'm a small mom and pop business, and as a courtesy to my few employees, I would like to have you come and talk with us for consumer safety. What is the procedure, and how much does it cost, and things of
Yeah,
that nature?
it's absolutely free to address that. We are at the ready to come out to groups and organizations, social clubs, any kind of group that wants us. We can travel throughout the state of Ohio. We have 3 consumer educators on our staff that go throughout the state of Ohio and give presentations on a weekly basis. So all you have to do is call our toll-free number at our help center at the Attorney General's office and tell them you want to get a consumer presentation scheduled from the consumer protection section of the office. Our toll-free number is 800-282-0515. And you can always go online as well. ohioattorneygeneral.gov is a great way to request a consumer presentation. There's never a cost to it. If you have 20 or more people, we can travel anywhere in Ohio to teach you about consumer protection issues like scams and identity theft. And if it's virtual, we have no minimum at all. So they'll let me do presentations for just a handful of people in communities that may not have the numbers that would draw us to go in person, but we can still give them all the same information virtually like we're doing here today.
Ryan, want to thank you. We're talking with Ryan Lippe, consumer educator with the State of Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost office. Thank you, Ryan.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. Nice to be with you.